All right, we are here for the pre-meeting of our February 2nd, 2021 Planning Commission meeting, and I will go ahead and read the disclaimer. Due to the increased threat of serious illness and loss of life by the rapid spread of the COVID-19 virus, the chair of the West Jordan Planning Commission has determined that conducting this Planning Commission meeting at the City Hall or at another anchor location is likely to contribute to the spread of COVID-19 and would present a substantial risk to the health, safety, and welfare of the city's residents, participants, and observers. Therefore, pursuant to Utah Code 52-4-2074, the West Jordan Planning Commission hereby declares that the meetings of this public body will be held only electronically until further notice. This determination will expire in 30 days from the date the chair of the Planning Commission signs the written determination. All right, I think we're just missing Commissioner Quinney and Commissioner Pamela Bloom. Okay, everyone else is here. First item on our consent calendar is approval of the minutes. Any comments, thoughts, concerns, worries, edits? Everyone's good? Oh, well, that was easy.
Trish, can I take a moment to introduce our new senior planner that we have hired?
Oh, please do.
His name's Brian Barrett. I used to work with Brian. In fact, he used to be my boss at Cottonwood Heights. So now we get to inflict pain and punishment on him. No, but Brian will be a good addition to our planning staff. He's got a lot of experience and worked in Arizona for quite a long time. Then he's worked around Utah. I think we're Draper, Cottonwood Heights, and he retired last year as the assistant city manager at Midvale, or maybe a year or two ago, and decided that he wanted to get back into the planning game. But we're very fortunate to have a person with Brian's experience and personality and attention to detail. So I think he'll be a great addition to West Jordan. And so,
hello, everybody.
So you worked for Kane, huh?
Yeah. Can you believe that guy's still working?
I thought he would retired a long time ago.
So did I.
Well, we're glad to have you, Brian.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here.
All right, and Commissioner Quinney has joined us. Julie, have you heard from Commissioner Bloom at all?
No.
Okay, thank you. And then our first public hearing tonight is the Park Valley Townhomes. And let's see, Larry, you've got this one.
Yeah, I do. And so I was wondering, I don't know, Matt, were you on the commission when we've done anything in the Highlands as far as density buy-ups, or does that even predate you on the planning commission? I think the last one we would have done in the Highlands is probably Orchard Heights.
I think I've been around for a couple of Highlands, but it's been a while. All the Peterson stuff starts blending together after a while. I can't believe you guys can keep track of it.
And so there's only a couple of residential pieces left in the Highlands, and this is one of them, and it's called Park Valley, and it's right behind the Smith's shopping center, but it's part of the Highlands master plan development. Now in the Highlands, to even go back a little further, the Highlands was the result of a larger zoning block on the west side called the West Side Planning Area that was created in the early 2000s as a result of some of the property owners' request and taking the city to court in a lawsuit. And so the zones are a little bit different. They're HFR, MFR, very low density single family, and LSR. And so the Highlands is the only place in the city that retains that West Side Planning Area jargon or zones. And the Highlands is about, I think it was 419 acres in area. So it's a fairly large master plan area. I think it's turning out quite nice out in that area of the city. The surprising enough, the stuff on the east side of 5600 West is not in the Highlands, but I think they identify as the Highlands because it is, because that's the signs they're putting up. And so, but in the Highlands, the West Side Planning Area Ordinance has the potential for density buy-ups. Now, these density buy-ups are in the ordinance. What can be used for a density increase? And what they do is you start at the base density, which in the AHFR zone would be 9 units to the acre, and then all the way up to 18 units to the acre. And so they start at the base density and they add amenities or things or develop in a way the city determined they want to develop in the ordinance, and that gives them a certain percentage that they are granted. And they can go all the way up to 100% of the density buy-up, or they can omit some things and only do, for instance, this case, 51% density buy-up. But surprisingly, the Petersons are only asking for a 41% density increase. And so this is what was done throughout the Highlands, in both Lone View, Orchard Heights, and what that resulted in is that trail system, which I think is a very attractive for the city through there. It was done in the View, the apartment complex, and in Gladstone. Those developments, these density buy-ups were all done. You don't, so as it's prescribed by ordinance, you just need to verify that they are in fact proposing to put those in. We don't have a lot of you can't out and out just say, no, it's not. We don't like that because it really is a developer driven ordinance. If they want to put something in, then if they plan to put it in, then the density buy-up applies. And so it makes your job easier, maybe frustrating on your part. I know years ago there's one planning commissioner that was continually frustrated by the different density buy-ups. But the one thing the Highlands has done really well is the street treatments. They have done really well. Common fencing, common walls. It's probably the only area of the city that has the same color street walls, same type of street walls, and identifying markers on the corners. And so, amongst other things, also the building types and the structures, the way they're oriented, I think has resulted in a better development pattern. And so it does have its merits. And so that's a quick review of the Highlands with the density buy-ups. And as I'll be presenting that in a PowerPoint today, and also my PowerPoint will be for the orientation and education of whatever public is happens to be joining us this evening. And so, the Park Valley will be 217 townhome types units. They will be they'll be all attached townhomes. There'll be 3 stories high, 2-car garage. A product that is, from what I hear, is sorely missing in West Jordan at present. And every time someone builds them, it sells out rather quickly because it is an affordable housing type. However, this development will be a for rent townhome type development. The Petersons are choosing to hold on to this as a for rent product and not a for sale product. It doesn't make any difference as far as your job is concerned. I happen to think in a development this size, which is about 17 or 18 acres with, a lot of it in the power corridor, that they're better managed as a rental unit because they can have a common manager manage it and repair the things as they get broken. And it seems to be effective more than a homeowners association. Not saying that homeowners associations are not effective, but it seems like when somebody's managing them, the issues get taken care of quicker. And so all the units will be the same. There'll be a mixture of 2 and 3 bedrooms. The 3 bedrooms will be on the bookends of the buildings. And so that's really, a for rent product. That's really kind of a product that's not a lot of it's available out there. 3 bedroom is, I know the View has some and some of the other recent apartments we put in, and what I've heard is those are always the first to rent out, surprisingly, because they are several $100s more than most people's mortgage. But people like the 3 bedroom. If they have children, then it gives them room and that type of thing. And so this will be right adjacent to the Nelson's frozen custard that was approved. That will probably start under construction fairly soon here. And it'll be right next to the city-owned detention pond that was constructed many, many years ago. And with this development, they also will be building a parking lot for the city park that is also in the detention pond. And they'll be putting a playground in the city park. And so, as I told you in the Planning Commission meeting, or for Nelson's, this was a model that the Petersons found worked very well in South Jordan, but I think this will be a better model or a better location and a better design than the one in South Jordan. That seems to have a lot of backing issues through the into the road system, where this will have a much, much larger car storage area for the Nelsons, and so it won't back so much. And then it'll be adjacent to a lot of people that like custard. I imagine everyone in the townhomes will like it. And so, and what it does is, what this development does is puts the density in the appropriate place. I think this was good planning that was done many years ago with this Highlands master plan. It puts the density so that it's easy to get to the arterial streets, either 5600 West or 7800 South. Now there will be a connector to Summer Glen Heights, which is a single family neighborhood. That will have some traffic through it, but reading the traffic impact study, the traffic impact study surprisingly was done for this development and a future development kind of to the southwest, and then Copper Rim. All of that traffic flow between 2025, and the professional that did the traffic study only determined that 20% of the trips will be northbound on 5600 West. It appeared, and 50% will be on Mountain View Corridor. So it appears that if anyone's going north, they tend to take Mountain View Corridor, where the 5600 West is probably more local trips. I think unless you live fairly close to the Summer Glen road, I believe it'll be just easier to go out the Highlands Loop Road to 78 or 5600 West, rather than traveling through that whole neighborhood down to a point in the north where you have to, well, there will be a light there. But I just think it's much smoother to go the other ways. So I kind of covered this in a high level area. Are there any questions that the Planning Commission have about this? So.
Thank you, Larry. Any questions?
Maybe you can go over a little bit on the way that they add up all of those credits. When I was going through this packet, it confused the living crap out of me.
And that's how the ordinance was established. And so you see each one of those amenities is a percent. And then it gives you a formula in the staff report. I don't remember it off, but basically you just add the percentage to the base, and that gives you a certain increase in percentage. For instance, this goes from 9%, I think, to either 13% or 13 units the acre, excuse me. Goes from 9 units acre to 13 units the acre. And I can go over that in the meeting if you would like. It is a fairly confusing ordinance, but I will say, Jay, that they do meet the density buy-ups of the additional 3% onto the 9 units the acre. And so it really is just how much they want to increase the density. If they were to go, say, 100%, then it would be, of course, up to 18 units to the acre, but they're not. They're only going 41%. And so that's the reason that it results in the additional 3 units per acre. So.
Okay. And this is done by ordinance and not by staff, correct? This is all set.
Yeah, all we do is the applicant, the Petersons have done this for a long time, and so they're very good at just pulling out the ordinance. We're going to build a swimming pool. A swimming pool's worth 2%. A tot lot's worth 1%. New urbanist design or rear loading garages is worth 18%. A clubhouse is worth 10%. So, the only thing that I think you'll have to make a determination on is a dog park, which I actually did some research on the amount of dog parks in the United States, and it actually kind of blew my mind how many dog parks there are anymore. And so it really is a popular thing, particularly in these townhome developments, because my daughter lives in a 1-bedroom apartment, and all her neighbors around her are 1-bedroom, and they all have dogs, and they're not little tiny dogs. They're the ones you could hook a plow to. And there's no dog park over in Midville where she does it. And so I think it's a good amenity. So, yeah.
What are you saying? We'll have to make, what kind of determination do we need to make with the dog park?
Just if I think they've asked for a 3% density buyout for the dog park. And so you'll just need to make a determination whether you feel that's worth a 3% density buyout.
Just because that's not in the ordinance?
Yeah, it's not one of the things that's actually in the ordinance, but it does give the planning commission the ability to add things, because of course the world changes, and what was important 10 years ago is not so important now. 15, 20 years ago, tennis courts were all the rage, and you hardly see them built anymore. I think people would much rather have a dog park than a tennis court, to be truthful, because
Pickleball,
yeah. And they're building 4 of those at Ronwood Park, this spring. And so that seems to be a popular.
What kind of percentage is given for a tennis court then?
Tennis court would be about 3%. It'd be the same. So.
Yeah,
And this will go to Councilmember Green. Will get to look at this, will he not?
Yes, because what you're doing is making a recommendation on the development plan as far as the density and the buy-ups, and then it will be a legislative decision by the city council. It will be adopted by ordinance. And so you're just recommending on the development plan, on the subdivision and site plan. Of course, you will be the final authority on the preliminary approval there. That will not go to the city council. So.
Great. Thank you, Larry. Any other questions? And you have mentioned this is the last of this zoning in our city. Is that correct?
As far as the multifamily or the residential in
this
in the Highlands is the only
Okay.
place that
Perfect. Thank you.
the site planning area.
Matt, you had a question.
Yeah, so Larry, you said that it's a 3% swing one way or the other. What is the actual net effect on the density? Does it go from 4.1 to 4.2, or is it like 4.1 to 4.11?
Actually, if you didn't give any credit for the dog park, it wouldn't change the density at all, because they've actually got enough to total 51% density by it, but they're only asking for 41%. The only caution I would have is that if you don't give them any credit, they may not build it. So, you know.
I only ask because to me, it doesn't seem like it makes a difference. A dog park is a decent amenity, and there's no reason for us to get in the weeds if it's not going to make a net difference on the net buy. The other question I have to that would be, if we say, yeah, go ahead, and we've got this 10% cushion, can they come back in 6 months and be like, oh, well, we have a 10% cushion, so we're going to go ahead and just increase it?
No.
Okay, just making sure. Yeah, so
Because like I said, this will be adopted. The density will be established by the city council by a legislative act, and an ordinance will be adopted. And correct me if I'm wrong, Duncan, that'll pretty much seal the density. It'll put a ceiling on the density.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay, just wanted to make sure we weren't going to spend an hour talking about dog parks when it didn't make any difference.
Yeah.
Because we've done that before,
Yeah.
and it's tiresome for most of us. So
You can never talk too much about dog parks, Matt.
it wasn't specifically dog parks. I think it was a conversation about lazy rivers, but that's just me. I don't know. Maybe Trish remembers better than I do.
Oh, thank you. That brought back some good memories.
I'm sorry, did you say good memories?
Good in quotation marks. That's okay. Today's not a training day, is it, Duncan? Isn't it?
The next meeting is always the
Last.
third week, the last meeting of the month, the third Tuesday, right?
So is there anything in particular the Planning Commission would like us to prepare for next meeting training wise? Is there something that's burning in your soul that you want to be trained on or talk about? Is there something that's confusing to you as far as your role as a planning commissioner?
Anyone?
What if we talked about one of the city ordinances that is going to be, you think we'll have to measure motions against in the coming year?
So you mean the adoption of new ordinances what'll be coming to you?
I mean, like in the city code is what I meant. Sorry.
I think if I understand you correctly, Commissioner Shelton, are you saying that ordinances that you might be applying or using or implementing over the next few meetings, maybe have some training on that?
Okay.
Yeah, basically, hey, this is an ordinance or in the city code, and you're going to be looking at motions that need to be measured against this code, and give us some training on that code.
Okay, we can do that.
Good suggestion.
Yeah, that is.
Commissioner Allen, you've been very quiet.
I was just about to ask, is it too late to go back and talk about this development?
I thought you were going to say dog park.
No, I'm fine with the dog park. I've got three questions. The first one, or first two, excuse me, are kind of combined. One, what does this do, being a rental unit, for affordable housing within the city? And then kind of secondly, along with that, how does this development agreement tie in with the cap and grade? Is this like the IOZ zone where it's just, this isn't included within that, or what's the situation?
It's so the Highlands, this Park Valley, and I think it was Lewiston Place, they were part of the original Highlands master plan, which was approved by the city in 2011, 2012. That predates the cap and grade. And so it was determined that they may in fact have entitlement to what was on that master plan. Duncan, you can jump in anytime you want. And so
yeah, and basically the city council sometime approximately a year and a half, 2 years ago, actually formally, if I remember correctly, amended the master plan for the whole, or the master development agreement for the whole development, specifically making it clear that this specific area within the Highlands, as well as another area, both did in fact predates the cap and grade and therefore are not applicable to it.
Yeah. And as far as affordable housing, I don't know what the rents are going to be. So that's the only way I can determine. My guess would be that, and the measure I go by is moderate income housing, because it's much easier. It's based on income, and what's the area median income and how your income relates to that's 80% of the area median income, or 50% or 30% of the area median income. I believe that probably the good majority of this will fall in the 80% range, and so it will satisfy our moderate income housing. It will support that as far as with the state of Utah. Affordable housing, I know the state and the news media keep throwing that out. That's a HUD term, and affordable is anytime you're not spending more than 30% of your income on mortgage or rent. I don't know, Duncan, you look at the law a lot more than I do. I've never seen a definition in the state of Utah of affordable housing. They've always focused on moderate income housing.
Right.
And so
that's the term that is defined. And that's we always refer to affordable housing, but I think what we normally mean is moderate income housing. And like you say, that's the term that is defined.
Yeah. So, I believe it will. I don't know what the 3-bedroom units are going to be. They could be on the other side of 2,000 a month. So, so I can't answer that question, Commissioner Allen. So at this point, so.
Oh, that was an excellent response. The last question I have is regarding the buy-up. It's confusing, yes, but walking through it, I think step by step helps. The question I have is when I add up the percent scores, it actually comes up to 55% as opposed to the 51. So I didn't see where there's a -4 or.
And are you looking at the staff report or the development plan?
The staff report.
Yeah, and so I probably made an error in my math, but the development plan is accurate. So if you look at that one page on the development plan, so and I probably, I apologize for that. I probably hurried through that portion of it and probably left an extra 4% in there somewhere. So,
well, and I think what I'm ultimately coming away with, even going through this with the numbers, is they're asking for less than they could get. Mm-hmm. Whether or not there's a dog park, I think a dog park is a fantastic idea. I'm 100% on board with you. I see them used all the time.
They really are a popular amenity anymore in developments, and so, and I think that, in the dog park, I know it'll be used by more than just Park Valley. I probably shouldn't say this, but people from Summer Glen will go in and use it, and because they're not going to patrol it, they're not going to go out and say, where's your key card to get into the dog park? It's not going to be that kind of thing. So I think it'll be a good amenity for the rest of the community. And, they're leaving some of that power corridor or open space, but they are building the trail through that. And so I think that'll be a great amenity once that's completed through the city. But that could be several years. So I'll quit talking. I know it's 5:59.
Thank you, Commissioner Allen. All right, well, Julie will go to the public hearing or the public meeting. All right, let's begin our Planning Commission meeting for February 2nd, 2021. And I will read our notice because of the COVID crisis, I guess. Due to the increased threat of serious illness and loss of life by the rapid spread of the COVID-19 virus, the chair of the West Jordan Planning Commission has determined that conducting this Planning Commission meeting at the City Hall or at another anchor location is likely to contribute to the spread of COVID-19 and would present a substantial risk to the health, safety, and welfare of the city's residents, participants, and observers. Therefore, pursuant to Utah Code 52-4-2074, The West Jordan Planning Commission hereby declares that the meeting of this public body will be held only electronically until further notice. This determination will expire in 30 days from the date the chair of the Planning Commission signs the written determination. All right, welcome. We have 6 of our 7 planning commissioners present. And we'll start off with our consent calendar, approving the minutes from January 19th, 2021.
Make a motion that we approve the minutes.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Thomas and Commissioner Allen. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And it passes, all 6 in favor. Okay, the first item on our public hearing this evening is the Park Valley Townhomes, 7652 South Highlands Loop Road, preliminary site plan, preliminary subdivision plat, and preliminary development plan. HFR zone, and Peterson Development has this one, and is it Barrett that we have here tonight to present to us?
You have Kaylin Nichols here present.
Oh, wonderful. Welcome to our Planning Commission, and please present.
Okay, and I will try not to be too redundant. I'm sure you guys have had a chance to look over the development plan and site plan and subdivision, so I will try and be as short-winded as possible, but there's a lot of information to cover, so I will try and do that. So our Park Valley development is part of the Highlands Master Planned Community that gained its approval in 2012. So what we're doing here is a sub-development plan to the Highlands Master Plan. Park Valley is located directly north of the Highlands Center, which includes the Smith's Marketplace and other commercial uses. It is located with easy access and direct access to arterial streets 7800 South and 5600 West, and is within close proximity to the Mountain View Corridor, the future Nielsen's Frozen Custard, and the existing city regional detention pond that will be a park is located directly to the east of our site. West of our site and included in our site is the regional multi-utility corridor. And to the north is the Summer Glen community that exists right now. And they are part of the Highlands Master Plan development as well. It is zoned currently HFR, high density multifamily residential. And it was established, this zone was established to promote an attractive setting, and this is right from your code, and I'm sure you can follow it if you want to look it up, but an attractive setting for high density multi-story and multifamily structures developed in a compact manner with large areas dedicated for open space. This zone is to be applied to areas that are adjacent to higher intensity uses such as commercial nodes and major roadways. So looking at our site, it's very well fitted for this zoning designation. And the objective of the zone is to allow for structures with higher density residential located in areas convenient to shopping and employment centers, which serve economic and social demands not adequately served in lower density zones. The HFR zone shall encourage attractive, walkable, multifamily developments that provide for large amounts of open space and promote multimodal design elements. And the location of this zone is perfect for what we're proposing as far as the general plan and the zoning designation calls out. It's right next to the commercial node. It's next to arterial streets. It is close proximity to the Mountain View corridor where you can get on the Mountain View corridor quickly. And in the future, we hope that UTA will come in with their bus rapid transit or rapid bus line or whatever they're going to propose at some point. That would be a perfect addition to this center, having that mode of transportation. And with the location of this, we also have trails that run through this as designed in the Trails Master Plan in West Jordan City. So we feel it's a perfect fit for this zone. As I'm sure you guys have looked through, the HFR zone is a performance-based zone. So there are required improvements that are basic good planning principles that we've incorporated into the community design as we've laid this out and nitpicked where we want things to go and what we need to incorporate to make it a good plan. Things like installing and connecting the regional trails system, pedestrian scaling, consistent architectural lighting, traffic calming measures, good connective street design, pedestrian-friendly and walkable neighborhood design, and attractive theme-based architecture on all sides of the structures. Then there are the optional amenities that when we implement them, they will increase the density of the project. And as we met with our design team designing this site, we first created a program of amenities that would not only make this a great neighborhood and community, but would be a benefit to the surrounding community as well. And so as we listed our project elements, it was fun to see how they came together with the WSPA zoning and how it overlapped, and to see what things that we wanted incorporated into this community before we even looked at the buy-up available. So I'm gonna delve quickly into, and I'd like to hit on the optional amenities. I don't know if you'll have many questions on those, but I want to focus on some of the site plan things and then go back to that if that's okay. And then you can ask questions about the buy-up. Our site is 17.06 net acres. We are proposing 217 units, which puts us at a density of 12.7 units per acre. The HFR zone has a range from 9.01 to 18. So we're not reaching for the 18 at all on this project. The minimum number of units would be 153 units. Max number would be 307. And with our proposed optional amenities, as you can see in our development plan and Larry's staff report, we reach 51%. And I think what I heard was there was a slight confusion in that, but it is at 51% according to our development plan. That puts us at our proposed number of, that puts us over our proposed number. So 41% buy-up would get us to from 153 base units up to 217. So we are, if you will, over amenitizing this project just because it'll make it a great project. And I'll come back to the optional amenities in a minute. So in site planning the site, we intentionally use this townhome footprint and design the project so it would have the least amount of impact to the Summer Glen community to the north. The buildings were placed so that only the end of the units are adjacent to Summer Glen. So there's a total of 14 units that will be adjacent to the 11 Summer Glen homes on the south side of their community. If we oriented the townhomes in the other direction, there would be about 28 units that would be impacting them and potentially facing into their backyards. So we were very careful and thought through what would be the least impact to them. There's a 30-foot landscape buffer between our units and their community. And as Larry points out in his staff report, the closest building from Park Valley to one of the single family residences would be 65 feet. So it's the best that we could think of to have the least impact on them. If we talk about the road structure, a large percentage of our units are alley loaded, 80% of them are, and all of the internal roads to this project will be private streets. The Highland Vale Drive that connects into the Highland Loop Road, that will be dedicated to the city and be a public street. The Nielsen's Park Lane, Parkington Lane, and 5680 West are actually being dedicated to the city with the Nielsen's custard. So those will already be dedicated. If we look just for a minute at the architecture, each unit has a side-by-side two-car garage, not a tandem, but side-by-side. I know that's a big talking point when we're looking at floor plans and with attached townhomes. It's an important thing to have a side-by-side garage. The end units on each of these units are 3-bedroom, are about 1,888 square feet. The interior units are 2-bedroom and are 1,673 square feet. And our buildings range from 3-plexes to 8-plexes, but with the majority of them being 4-plexes. So there's a good variety in building size, so it won't get monotonous. At the peak of the building, they are 29 feet 5 inches tall. And that's just a general code thing that 30 feet tall is the maximum height that buildings can be. And that applies also to Summer Glen. So they are allowed to have 30-foot tall buildings as well in their development. The exterior of our units will have brick, stucco, and metal siding. And over the garages, I know this was brought up by the design review committee that they wanted to see something else on those garages. We're planning to put like a type of awning or eyebrow over the garages that will be a metal awning to give some interest to the back of those units on the alleys. When we talk about parking, there are 109 parking stalls in this project, not including the 2 car garages included in the units. Based on our parking requirements set by code, we are required to have 532 stalls, and that includes the garages, and we have provided 533, not including the 10 provided at the park. Garbage collection is going to be private. There's going to be room in each garage for them to store 2 garbage cans. And there are also 2 dumpsters for larger trash and for the clubhouse to use on the west side. If we look at the overall plan as far as open space goes, overall we have 8.05 acres of open space. And if we're looking at the net acreage, that's 40%, 47% of the net acreage. 20% is required in the WSPA. And the question came up, how much of that is in the utility corridor and not being landscaped? That is 2.73 acres. 5.16 acres is within the townhome area and will be landscaped and irrigated. And 0.16 is a portion that we are dedicating to the city that's right adjacent to the detention basin. So if we're looking at overall open space that's going to be irrigated, it's 31%. So we're still meeting that 20% required, even if we exclude the utility corridor as part of the open space calculation. If you look at the site plan, there are 2 12-foot wide regional trails we're putting in, the one that goes through the utility corridor that runs from our project north to the Summer Glen project. And then one that runs along the southern boundary of our project along the dry wash. And the dry wash is going to be piped and have a 60-inch storm drain pipe in there. It will be regraded to meet the 100-year flood design standard. So it will have a swale above it. And it will be landscaped and irrigated as well. So I think that will be a really nice amenity for this project. Kind of the front end when you're coming into this project, that's what you're going to see is this beautiful open space with a trail. If we look at the clubhouse, it's 4,530 square feet. It includes the leasing offices, a fitness room, a rec room with a kitchen, restrooms for the pool area, and the pool maintenance room. And if we look at the parking there, there are 5 ADA stalls, and there's parking for bicycles there as well. Now, if you guys want to go back to the optional amenities, I don't know if you have a lot of questions on these. I can go through these, or if you have major questions, please interrupt and I can answer those questions. Just going down my list, we have a swimming pool and 2 hot tubs on the west side near the clubhouse. We have 2 playgrounds. One is near the clubhouse and one is on the east side to serve the regional detention basin park. We thought that that would be a great addition to the park and make that a great functional park for the community outside of our Park Valley Townhomes project, as well as for our residents. We have a tot lot that's in the center for just the residents. As far as the trails, we are including 2 benches and 2 trash receptacles along the trails. We have 2 entry monuments, one at each entrance as you enter the project, and an overall big Highlands master plan sign on the very corner, kitty corner from the Nielsen's project. That's one of our main gateways into the Highlands project from any major road. So we thought that was a great location to put a Highlands master plan sign. 80% of our units are alley loaded. we have our clubhouse, and we're providing a barbecue area with covered, like a pergola over the top, and seating right to the west of the clubhouse. And in addition to dedicating the open space to the detention basin park, we are going to install a parking lot for that park. And then, as you guys were discussing prior, the dog park is on the west side of the project. It is within the utility corridor. And for the short term, we feel like our residents will really benefit from this. And maybe in the long run, since our trail goes right next to that, it may become a more public dog park. But for the time being, it will be maintained and mostly under the control of the Park Valley Townhome project. Do you guys have any questions for me?
Thank you, Kaylin, for that great presentation. And will commissioners, if you have any questions? No questions. That was a great presentation. You covered everything well. Okay, we'll come back to you if there's something that comes from. Oh,
Unmute myself. I'm sorry. I did have a question.
Please, Commissioner Shelton, please go.
Thank you. My question is on the utility corridor. You mentioned that there won't be any landscaping. Is there any treatment to that space? Or how is it going to look when it's all done? Is it just going to be sagebrush?
A portion of it will be irrigated with grass, but further west, we're going to leave it more native and kind of as is. For the time being, I know that there have been talk, and I don't know where the city stands right now on their plans for the utility corridor, but as that gets refined or a recreation master plan gets put in place for that other area, there might be a chance to improve this more. But as it stands at this moment, a portion of it will be just turf grass and then the rest left.
So the portion that's turf grass, is that going to be the dog park?
A portion of the dog park, yes. Not the full area that will be fenced in will be irrigated.
Thank you, Commissioner. All right, this is a public hearing, so we will open this up. Oh, we need to hear from Larry first.
Yeah, can you see the PowerPoint, Commissioner Hatch? No.
I don't have any PowerPoint at all. Julie, should I be sharing my screen with something?
All right, can you see that now?
Yes.
Okay, and Kaylin covered a lot of this, and so it'll be redundant, but what it will do is it will give you a picture of what she's been talking about. She did a wonderful job. This describes where it's at. Right now it's an open field right directly north of the Smiths and south of the Summer Glen subdivision, of course, west of this regional detention pond. And then this is where the power corridor is. And this is a Highlands master plan, more for the public to view. I know that the Planning Commission in their staff report was given a copy of this. And so this was adopted in 2012. And like I said, most of the residential has been developed with this Park Valley and a project up here to the north yet to be done. And this was approved as high density in 2012. It's zoned HFR, and it's in high density residential on the land use map. So one thing that the Planning Commission will be considering is the subdivision. This is, of course, one large, about 15-acre parcel that will be in the subdivision. And the overall project's about 18 acres, but a lot of these parcels under the power corridor are being left the way they are, and that is strictly to support the easements that exist. The power corridor is owned, a lot of it's owned by Rocky Mountain Power, but some of it, such as this, where the Petersons own this, have an easement through their property. And so actually the Petersons own the property, but the power company has a very stringent easement. Anytime they do anything in that easement, it has to meet the approval of Rocky Mountain Power. And for obvious reasons, they don't want bonfires in there or stuff like that, or trees planted, because those are a very high voltage power transmission lines that run through that corridor. And there also is a gas, high pressure gas line in that corridor also. And so this is the site plan that the Planning Commission also has on their agenda tonight. Kaylin talked a lot about this. They're all townhomes, as she said, in 4-plex, a 5-plex, and up to an 8-plex. The majority of them are 4-plexes. There'll be 3 points of access into Park Valley, 2 of them from Highland View Drive, and then they can either go east to 5600 West or through the roundabout to 7800, or a road in the future will go to the west through the Copper Room development. Or there is a road, a sub-street that was installed with Summer Glen Heights that will take them north, or they could go through the Copper Rim development. And I'll talk a little more about the traffic study in a minute. And so this is the proposed site plan. And I'll go through the amenities really quick because Kaylin did a great job, and I'll just kind of circle where the amenities are. This, of course, is the buy-up chart that's in the development plan. It's talked about the swimming pool, playgrounds, tot lot, the benches, trash receptacles. Those have all been really common in the Highlands. The ornamental gateway feature and the entry monuments have been common in the Highlands. Alternative garage configuration. In anything that the Petersons have done as far as multifamily goes, they have been entirely alley loaded, or the large percentage of them alley loaded. And so that really gives the neighbors won't be looking at a garage, they'll be looking at to your neighbor across the street, and the alleys will be kind of hidden from the view. And so they will have a really nice front front or area in front of their homes. And of course there'll be a clubhouse that's down here, and that's a 4,000 square foot clubhouse. So that's a nice size for a development that has this many people. Barbecue, and then a parking lot for the park. That this will not be counted, as Kaylin said, in the parking requirement for Park Valley. This will be dedicated to the city, and this is for residents to park there, to go to the park or the playground that will be installed also by the Petersons. And of course the dog park will be up in this area. The green space will be a large play area behind the pool and the clubhouse. So she talked about the type of housing. It'll have the 2-car garages, as Kaylin talked about, and this is a development that the Petersons have done, and it'll look similar to this. And so this is what you'll be looking down an alley with, attractive front door features facing each other. All the trash receptacles, which there'll be several, will be in dumpster closures. The lighting will be the common theme that has been used throughout the Highland, the 15-foot acorn style, which is more pedestrian friendly. It illuminates the walkways more than it does the streets. And so buildings and structures, she talked about the metal siding, the stucco, and the brick facades. It's a modern look. And so, but what it does is it meets the ordinances. It gives this project an identity. It will be Park Valley. It won't be like a Parkside, which is across the street, which is a Peterson development. So the theme will be unified, which the ordinance calls for. And the bed units she talked about. They'll have the 2-car garage, and they also have a entry room here with closets, and all the mechanical stuff will be on this main floor. And then, so each garage will be on the first floor on the ground level, and there'll be 2-car garages. The second level will be a living room, dining room, and kitchen. So the living area will be on the second floor. And then, of course, the bedrooms will be on the third floor. And as Kaylin mentioned, the interior units will be 2-bedroom with the bookends of 3-bedroom units on the end units of all of the building types. Drainage, I have received a phone call from a neighbor that lives in Summer Glen. Summer Glen has had a lot of stormwater issues that have flooded some backyards and some houses in the instance. They were concerned about the drainage of Park Valley. Will it drain into their backyard? No, the drainage will all hard surfaces will be channeled towards streets, city owned stormwater systems, or the detention pond or the wash. So all drainage will, as you can see, will sheet from north to south. The one concern, as I spoke about with the neighbors, was this area right here. I've been assured by our engineering department that they will take whatever measures are necessary to assure that there will be no water coming from the Park Valley side on to the Summer Glen Heights backyard, whether that's the well, one thing that will help immensely is the installation of landscaping along this, but also the sloping of the property, the grading of the property, and if need be, a swale will be put in here. And this will be common area, and so the swale will probably likely survive. Sometimes in backyards they don't, because people want to landscape their own backyard. So, so I just want to make sure the public understands that we will do all that we need to prevent any drainage onto these private lots to the north. Traffic, I spoke a little bit about this in the pre-op or the pre-meeting. There has been a traffic study done, and as I said in that meeting, it includes this multifamily area and the copper rim. So it includes quite a large area. It studied a large area. So 50% of the traffic will be going to Mountain View corridor. 10%, as you can see, will be going south on 56. 20% will be going east on 78. And another 20% will be going north on 5600 west. Now, there will also be a stub street, as we have talked about, into Summer Glen Heights. I think some of the people that live here may find that option easier to go up here and then out, or this way through Copper Valley. I don't see the majority of them going there. I think it would be easier to come down to either of the arterial streets to on your travels, because this kind of takes you out of the way a little bit. However, it is a public road. It's designed to meet the capacity of whatever will come through there. It was planned that way. And so, on to landscaping. They have done a preliminary landscaping plan. Landscaping in West Jordan is generally approved at final, not at the preliminary, but they have shown how they intend these areas will be landscaped. You can't read this detail, but it is in your development plan. They have already started choosing lists of plants to use. This will be a typical of what the areas between the homes' front doors will look like. And I think it may be a good suggestion or a requirement from the Planning Commission that Peterson create a landscape screen between in this 30-foot buffer between Park Valley and Summer Glen, just so both parties have a little more privacy and they're not looking at each other. I think that screen can be done with high growing bushes or evergreen trees, something like that. But I'll wait. The Planning Commission can discuss that further as we go in the meeting. Fencing and walls. They will be fencing the dog park with this black powder coated chain link fence, and of course around the pool with this wrought iron fence, it's aluminum powder coated, and it's very commonly used. There is an existing 6-foot wall along the border of Summer Glen. However, it does have some issues. The neighbors are concerned about that because and the problem is it's building a wall on a slope causes this step feature. And so, as you can see, you always have, the high end and the low end. And in some cases, the low end is very low, down to 50 inches or so. As you can see on here, it's at 56 inches. And that's, several inches, a foot or more below the 6-foot requirement. And so I think that it would also be good for the Planning Commission to make a requirement that Peterson either address this and make it a full 6 feet, or even, with grading, maybe some type of swale down here, so that if people go into an area next to these people's backyard, that they can't be looking over the fence. I know they make, kind of triangle pieces that create the full 6 feet. But, if the Planning Commission would make some kind of recommendation that the applicant work with staff to make sure that the neighbors truly get the 6-foot fence that they were, at least on this side, that they were promised with the Summer Glen Heights development. And, we have, yes, sir.
Sorry to interrupt, but I didn't want to wait till the end and then forget. Who put the fence up? Did Peterson put the fence up in the first place?
That was Ivory Development put that
So
up.
it seems unfair to make Peterson have to replace the fence. It would make more sense, in my opinion, that we talk about trees or some kind of screening. But having them address the fence issue seems unfair, since they didn't do this in the first place.
No, I wasn't suggesting that we have Peterson replace the fence, and we find some way to mitigate it. And they could even put a swale close to the fence. So if somebody's standing in a 18-inch swale here, they won't be able to look over the fence if you follow my meeting.
Okay.
So we have done that in some instances where the problem is on this sloping, and the reason that I would just ask the Planning Commission to work with staff on this is because we don't know what the final grade of this large hill is going to be. It may be drawn down a few feet. And so it would be premature for the Planning Commission to come up with a solution. I would just have the Planning Commission work with Peterson on this issue. We want to make sure the neighbors are, the issue is fully mitigated though. And so if the Planning Commission has that kind of trust, so
we can put a condition in there that they have to come back with the final fence plan.
If you want that, yeah. If
Okay.
you just want to make it a requirement of the final approval.
Just wanted to make sure we understand that. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
And so conclusion, Kaylin went over this, her density buy-ups really well. I just want to reiterate one more time that the total proposed units will be 217. At a density of 12.7 units per acre. And believe it or not, that's rather on the low end for a multifamily development. But I think this will be an attractive development for West Jordan City, and staff recommends approval. It meets all the provisions of the subdivision site plan and the WSPA ordinance. Do you have any questions for me at this point?
I do.
Commissioner Shelton.
Thank you. First of all, in respect to the 6-foot wall, Peterson didn't have to pay to install that wall. So it seems that they're benefiting from the fact that it's there already. I believe that we should put some kind of provision in there to have them fix it so that the residents behind there have a full 6 feet. Just my feelings on that. Second of all, I wanted to ask about the, I believe I already know the answer to this, but when you started talking about flooding concerns, are all the units in this development above grade? I believe they are.
Yes, they are. They're all.
I wanted to
above grade.
confirm that there's no space below grade on any of these
No.
units.
No, they're all slab on grade units. So
Okay, and then last of all, I wanted to just support the concept of a landscaping screen on that north side. I think that's a great idea.
and I think that could accomplish, could mitigate a lot of the privacy issues that the homeowners really crave when they purchase a home, and so I think that it would also, I believe, make the development look nice to have some kind of tree line screen through there, or tree line or large bushes, that type of thing. So
I mean, quite frankly, I know that this has been high density zone for a number of years, but I am somewhat concerned for those residents who are living along that property line.
yeah, but I think that the mitigation's in place, Commissioner
Yeah,
Shelton.
and exactly, and that's why I'm very pleased that you've suggested those mitigations. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner Shelton. And there also is a 65-foot buffer between property homes. Is that correct? Did I hear that?
That's correct. It's 35 feet, and then the homes are set back 25 feet. So you're
Okay.
at 65 feet.
Thank you. I have one question for you, Larry. I didn't hear about parking by the pool.
Okay.
Is there parking near the pool?
Yes, it looks like there's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20.
Okay, so,
Looks like there's about 30 stalls for the.
and some of those look like they're in front of a group of homes as well. So that's definitely adequate. Okay,
Yep.
that was my question. Thank you. Anyone else? All right, this is a public hearing, so we will open this up for the public. If anyone is here to speak on this, let me just change my screen so I can see. I don't see anyone here to speak on this. Julie, am I missing someone?
There are people in the audience. I don't see any hands if anybody wants to raise their hand. And if they're on a telephone, they do *9 to raise your hand.
All right, I still don't see any public comment. All right, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing portion of our meeting and bring it back to the Planning Commission for discussion.
Chair, I had one quick question.
Please.
Is this going to be a gated community?
Oh, it will not be gated. That's actually one of the prohibited things in the Highlands. There's no gated communities. So.
I thought as such, but I wanted to make sure.
Yeah, you fire guys always worry about gated communities, I know, because they're often not easy to get into and in a timely manner. So.
Chair, I've got a few questions.
Please, Commissioner Allen.
I apologize. I'm a bit slow on unmuting, and so some of these may go back to the applicant, some may be for staff. First question, are with this area intending to be rental units, is this intended to be all full-time rentals, or are some of these kind of an on-demand Airbnb style rental?
And I think those questions are more appropriate for Kaylin than me. So,
Kaylin, please respond.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think at the moment they are all for rent. I don't know that there'll be any Airbnb, but this part hasn't been discussed in depth yet. So I would guess at this moment we're just planning on them all being rentals.
Okay, thank you. Along with that, and since we've got you, one of the things I'm noticing is all of the units, of course, have the garage underneath and then move up into the facility. What do we have for wheelchair type accessibility?
And Larry, I don't know if you have a plan that shows the topography on across the site. There's a section of the site that gets fairly steep, and in the development plan we have two different types of units. One will access, and it's not necessarily ADA accessible, but it is more accessible to less stairs, I would say, from the main door. So if you look at this plan that Larry has pulled up, down the, not quite the middle, but to the east of the middle, there's quite a lot of topography. And we are doing some of the units accessible where you can go through the front door on the second floor, but your garage is still on the first floor. So you drive out, it's a slope separated unit. So you drive on the main floor and you can access the front door from the second floor, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I'm following. So you'd park and then come out of the garage, go around, and then come in the front door.
and
Or is the garage on the same side as the?
and if you look in your development plan, the architect has put like one of these units, which will reflect what Kaylin was saying, is that they actually go down on the downhill side. They enter the garage, but they would enter right on this second floor. And they've done a good job of that because they've turned the low side to the alleyway and not to the front door. And so the front doors will be matching. There won't be like a wall. I've seen some developments in other cities where they put the low side on the entrance side, and they usually end up with like a big retaining wall here, where the building, the architect's done a very good job, acts as the retaining wall with the low side down here. And so if you look in your development plan, there is one of those diagrams towards the back of that plan. So,
and I'm glad to hear that we're maintaining that consistency while still having the ADA compliance. That's fantastic. Moving, Larry, question for you. So we're talking about this landscaping screen and the fencing. It sounds like we need to have a little bit more of a conversation here on those two items. Is the intention, staff's intention at this point, are you requesting that we turn those two items over to staff to resolve, or are you?
I would ask that and just make those requests that we work with the applicant. We know the intent of the planning commission. I would just ask that you have enough trust that we work that out in the final approval. However, if you're not comfortable doing that, we could, when actually the determination is made, we could bring that back to the planning commission. I don't necessarily want to hold this development up for these two issues because I think we can be working through those at the same time as the final approval is going through. So
if we choose to go that direction, and I think my vote would be that we do, would the planning commission see this again? Or is this the last? This is the last shot at it.
Yeah.
Okay.
How far out is that final agreement supposed to be done, Larry? From the time that they get our approval and then see city council, when is that final development plan done?
It's, I expect this will be done fairly rapidly. Preliminary approvals last for 1 year. I don't anticipate that taking that long, but I could, as the final approval, we could bring that back to the planning commission for you to see.
As long as we can trust that you'll still be around. I just don't want to, 5 years down the road when you've been fired or retired and, or found a better gig, one of the three, right?
Yeah.
We don't know who the next guy's going to do. We can trust you, but what's the next guy going to do?
Well, the other thing you have is Kalen and the Peterson development. They're made very aware of of what our concerns are along that north border there. So, but it's up to the planning commission, whatever you want to do. So.
I definitely have a trust for staff. And maybe let's talk about what that landscape screen looks like. So one of the concerns I have is if we do go with a landscape screen on the north end, the subdivision plat already has a public utility easement running through there as well. Larry, maybe you could address or speak to, do we anticipate any utilities actually using that? Is there anything currently there?
No, there's nothing currently there. Public utilities are gas, electricity, cable, and West Jordan, the public water and sewer are always in the streets in West Jordan. So could there be some public utilities back there? Yes. Would the landscape screen necessarily interfere with that? I don't believe so, because the buffer, the landscape easement, or utility easement, could be right adjacent to the units, and I would hope that the screen would be more closer to the fence. So it's a fairly wide area. Todd Johnson, one of our engineers here, he could probably answer that question. He speaks your kind of language, Ammon. He's an engineer. And so I think Todd could weigh in on that a little more if he's willing. So.
Sure. There's a proposed 10-foot public utility easement around the perimeter of the subdivision. There are not existing utilities, as Larry stated just a moment ago. That utility easement, the PUE, we do have some flexibility, so we could rearrange that around any needed landscape area. So I don't anticipate any sort of significant conflict between the two.
Okay, and that's exactly what I was looking for, because I do usually see it around the perimeter, as you're aware. That's what makes the most sense. If we can shift that a little bit to the south to provide a landscaping buffer, that would be fantastic. I don't know, what does everybody else think?
I am 100% in favor of landscaping screen and not messing with the fence for several reasons. One, Peterson didn't put this fence up, shouldn't be their responsibility to fix it. Two, the houses that we were looking at from the development side to on the other side, we're sitting at so far above 6 feet. It doesn't matter if we move the fence up to 6 feet. We're not going to get any screening anyway from third-story buildings. The best chance we have is to put trees up along that fence to try and mitigate sight lines going both directions. 6-foot fence isn't going to make a difference. That's my opinion. I don't see any reason to mess with the fence.
Commissioners, I need to interrupt everyone here. There is a hand that has been raised, so I would like to see if we could have a motion to close this portion and reopen the public hearing so we can get this person's comment on the record.
So motioned.
Second.
Good.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. And whoever is on phone 801-815-5674, are you still there to comment?
They're still on mute.
The way to unmute on the phone is *6.
*6 will unmute you. I can't unmute you. Do you still have a comment? All right, we are going to close the public hearing then. Thank you for allowing that option. And we'll go back to the Planning Commission for further deliberation.
I was just going to comment that I agree with Matt, with Commissioner Quinney, that we just leave this up to staff and it should be a landscaping screening of some sort, trees, and not mess with the wall.
For
Just
those
my
of you
thoughts.
for those of you that have been on longer than I have, we've got three different motions today: a preliminary site plan, a subdivision plan, and a sub-area preliminary development plan. Which of those three does it make the most sense to talk about the landscape screen?
I would just put that in the development plan motion, and the city council can see that you've addressed that when it goes to them, because they'll have the same concerns. So that's my suggestion. And we'll make sure it's carried out and reflected in the site plan and in the subdivision. So, you know, and the way the site plan and subdivision development plan interchange in the Highlands is if you make the motion or a condition on any one of them, it has to be reflected on the other two. So you're safe anyway. So if you do it in the subdivision, it'll be reflected on the site plan and the development plan.
So it brings another question I had, Larry. If I look through the conditions of approval, there's an empty number 6 on that development plan. I assume it's just somebody hit enter, but I just wanted to make sure there wasn't supposed to be a.
No, it would be me that hit enter, and probably, you know, I should have.
You knew in advance that we were going to put in this landscape buffer, right?
Yes, I'll thank you for my premonition.
Can I make a motion? Does anybody else have anything?
I'd like to make just one more plea.
I just need to interrupt again, and I don't know protocol on this. Duncan, if you're still on the line, I still have the same person has raised their hand again to make a comment, and I'm not sure at this point what is protocol, what we do and what we don't do.
Well, I mean, you can always entertain a comment as the chair. Especially where somebody, if it's the same individuals trying to make a comment before,
Okay.
I'd probably recommend that you try to use whatever technology you can to give that person a chance to speak.
And they have unmuted now, so we will.
Now they're muted.
Now they're muted. So whoever is on line, phone number 801-815-5674. Oh, are you unmuted? We're going to suspend our motion here and allow you to make your public comment. Will you please state your name and address for the record, please?
Dustin Walmsley, 5737 West, 7520 South in Summer Glen.
Thank you. Go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
I do apologize. I had been unmuting back when you opened the comments when we were specifically talking about the wall, and I'm not sure why it would not unmute. Anyway, Larry, I do appreciate the concern you've been bringing up, particularly about that wall and about the privacy screen. It seems like everybody's kind of pinpointed on that. I just wanted to add how problematic that wall already is that runs between, that will be running between the two communities. I have to go out every year and rebury my footings because the water runs down that wall and digs out the footings. So it's problematic already. I know you've talked about some swells and ways of, taking care of the drainage already. But, just understand that it's already problematic. It's not nearly providing even 6 feet of elevation. Those were my pictures that were shown. That was not by any means the average height of that wall. In fact, most of the wall is about, my waist height, just based on the grade as you walk the wall. I would advise anybody, please just go out there and walk that property and just see that wall does absolutely zero good. Obviously, it was put in by Ivory. There's not a lot of things that Ivory does good. I would definitely not proceed without, considering fixing what Ivory had made the mistake of doing and not putting in a proper wall. Trees would be great. It would help with sight lines, but there still needs to be some security as well.
Thank you very much, Dustin. Does that cover what you need to say?
It does.
All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate the comment. All right. We'll bring it back to the Planning Commission now for a motion, it sounds like.
I think Commissioner Shelton wanted to make one more plea.
Oh, please, Commissioner Shelton.
Thank you. So I think the person on the phone that we just listened to made a point that I failed to make, which was this is not just for privacy for these residents, it's also for security and a level of security that I believe should be addressed. The fact that the wall is already there, and what if the wall wasn't there? Then what would our conversation be? How would our conversation be different right now? And the fact that that wall is only waist high in many places means that it's virtually, it's not really of any value in its current state. So I believe as a commission, we should consider the fact that, well, in my opinion, that wall in a way doesn't even exist. And how would our conversation be different if it did exist, if it did not exist at all? That's the question I'd like to ask my fellow commissioners.
I appreciate where Commissioner Shelton's coming from. Here's what I'm making a guess here. Larry, step in. I am going to make an assumption that that wall is entirely on the north properties at this point and does not encroach into Peterson's land.
I would assume that, yes.
And under that situation, I don't believe it would be appropriate for us to force Peterson to do something on private property, which steps back to, if we're going to resolve this, we're either asking for landscape screening or a second wall or some other form of fence. And I don't like that from a city standpoint. It creates kind of a no man's land. We had that conversation, I think, back with the airport. It's a difficult situation, though.
And I think some of it could be accomplished with grading, to be truthful with you. It's, because if you grade it down a couple of feet, then it won't, make sure the footings are protected and that type of thing. But if it's done, in an engineered way, I believe that it could bring that wall up to, at least on the Park Valley side, it would make the wall much higher with the grading. If you graded down and had a rock bank or something like that, it's just the issues we've got to look into. And I don't know what the applicant's willing to do at that point with them. I haven't addressed this issue with them yet. And so they may be willing to solve the problem some other way. So, but
that's where I'm at with Commissioner Allen. I think, we stick with screening at the discretion of staff. And maybe we can suggest an encouragement that if they feel so inclined, then they can go ahead and tear down this fence and add a new fence that makes more sense if they want to be, good neighbors. But I don't see how we can even begin to require them, especially as Commissioner Allen's pointed out, this isn't even on their side of the property line. So
would we be requiring them to build a fence if it wasn't there?
I think we'd have them building a fence if it wasn't there, yes. But it would be on their property, not on the adjoining property.
That would be if that Ivory land was empty, and that's not the case. So we're putting hypothetical situations in situations that aren't hypothetical.
Yeah, that's a rabbit hole, like suggestion.
Yeah,
because it doesn't lead anywhere. And so
not at all. No, it's not productive.
So I think Commissioner Quinney is going to make a motion, or at least a recommendation, a motion. I think with that landscaping feature that we do two things. One, encourage a landscaping feature, but two, I like the idea of that swale. Because if we can get that in there, I think one, it's going to help with the erosion around the wall footings. And two, it's going to reduce the height at which somebody can stand. So effectively increase the height of the wall for somebody standing right next to it. I think both of those together would be required.
Do we want to make them required, or do we want to say, hey, these are strongly suggested, but we'll let you work it out with staff? I feel like that's probably the best way to go on this.
I'm open to that.
If I'm gonna speak for the group, I just want to make sure that the group's on board.
I just want to make sure we have some sort of measure that it is carried out, though. And that's where we can trust staff.
Okay, sounds like we're good. Can I go ahead and proceed, Commissioner Hatch?
Please do, Commissioner Quinney.
All right, first one, based on the information and findings set forth in the staff report and upon the evidence and explanations received today, I move that the Planning Commission approve the preliminary site plan for Park Valley Townhomes. It's 7652 South Highlands Loop Road with the conditions contained in the staff packet.
Second.
Thank you. So we have a first by Commissioner Quinney, second by Commissioner Allen. All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed?
I'm
Carried.
opposed.
One opposed, so 5-1. Next, do you want to take the next one, Matt?
Yep. Based on the information and findings set forth in the staff report upon the evidence and explanations received today, I move that the Planning Commission approve the preliminary subdivision plat for Park Valley Townhomes at 7652 South Highlands Loop Road.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Commissioner England. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? It carries 6-0. And Matt, you want to take it away?
Yeah, based on the information and findings set forth in the staff report upon the evidence and explanations received today, I move that the Planning Commission forward a positive recommendation to City Council for the preliminary development plan for Park Valley Townhomes, 7652 South Highlands Loop Road, with the conditions in the packet. And the sixth one added that in conjunction with staff, that we work out some kind of a screening as well as discussion about doing a swell or some other measure to mitigate the fence issues.
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you both, Commissioner Quinney and Allen. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm opposed.
And it carries 5-1.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, I think that does it for tonight. Did we miss anything, Larry?
Yeah.
No, you didn't. Thank you, Commission. You always do a wonderful job.
Okay.
Thanks for your time on this. So.
Well, thank you, staff. That was an extensive report, and we're thankful for Peterson for their patience with us as well as we worked through that. So
I mean, she wanted
thank you. Should we make a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Nay.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
All right, we'll see you guys
Who
in 2
was
weeks.
that?
Yeah, I'd like to throw out a happy birthday to Commissioner Shelton. Was it yesterday?
Yes, thank you.
Hey, happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Have a
everyone.
good night, guys.